Hello, you guys. This is Josh Vision, and I'm here to give you my Season 1, Episode 7 review of KnightFall. So, we begin this episode, you guys, with the Queen of Catalonia hell-bent on getting revenge for her son. So, the Prince of Catalonia, who tragically died, mainly due to Denilgare's and Queen Joan's daughter, Isabella's really ingenious plan. So, essentially, she captures a few soldiers of the king, King Philip's. And it seems as though, they're all in, some type of dungeon, below her castle. And I'm trying to remember if she's actually in Navarre, or she's close to Navarre, or she's still in Catalonia. But I do know that and I do remember, basically, that she has captured some Philip's, soldiers, like I mentioned. So it seems like half of them are basically dead, and the rest are barely clinging on to life. So there's one specific soldier, and he's begging for his life, saying that if she lets him go, he won't try to get any revenge on her. He swears it. So she claims that she believes him, but she says, I'll let you go, but I have to get a little bit of compensation in return. So she basically cuts his hands off, or basically has one of her men cut both of his hands off. So news reaches King Philip and Queen Joan, and King Philip obviously is enraged by this, basically the savagery of the Queen, Catalonia's, viciousness, and Joan, she's really trying to figure out what's the best course of action. So she thinks the best course of action is for her to go to Navarre to raise, basically her hometown people's spirits, while King Philip, gets his soldiers into the town to deal with the threat of the Queen of Catalonia. But there's a little bit of a sparring match that happens between Philip and Joan. Philip says to Joan, you're like 8 months pregnant. You're no condition to go try to raise morale of, of your people back in your native land of Navarre. And you never experienced war or blood. And when she claps back and says, well, you never done that. You never experienced that. In a way, she was not only just coming back at him for what he said about her, she was basically coming at his manhood, his kingship, and, just his integrity. And as we've seen throughout, this season, we had Denilgare come at King Philip saying that he doesn't have what it takes to, get the job done or be the king that France needs. And I'm sure we've heard, if I remember correctly, there's been plenty of other people in the courts who've had the same thought process when it comes to King Philip and his leadership. So just the fact that his wife is saying this, someone whom we know from, the beginning of the season, their relationship isn't as good as it used to be. And that's mainly due to her and Landry's secret affair, and it seems, at least to me, besides Landry, and his daughter, obviously Joan is the most important person to him, that's his wife. So it's bad enough when you got Denilgare saying that and everyone else saying that, but when your wife is saying that and you're the king of France and she's basically calling you out as a man and as a king and even to a certain extent as a husband, then I don't blame him for being a little frustrated, because all throughout this season we have Joan saying, well, I don't love my husband, or he's done this. I can only think of one example throughout the season where she mentioned he did something really terrible, and that was the fact in which Queen Joan mentioned he got her a flute player, and the flute player would play this beautiful music, and she would always, and she loved it, and most of the time she would be with Philip, but eventually she started bringing the flute player to her room or something, wherever she dined in the castle, and he would play for her all day, and she wouldn't spend that much time with Philip, so Philip decided to have his men break his fingers, and he couldn't play the flute as well as he used to. So when I hear that, I'm like, well, dang, Philip is vicious. But like I said before, Joan has never given Philip that much attention. I think Philip even mentioned that about even that being the case even early in their marriage, And Joan says, she loved the flute player for his talents. Now, if we're going to compare Joan when it comes to men, it seems as though, she always spends her time, the dude she spends her time with, she always screws. We had Landry, you feel me, for 15 years, I think. and she's probably screwing the flute guy. But luckily, in both accounts, the king, King Philip was like, he didn't figure it out. I think she probably had an affair with the flute player too, but that's just my opinion. Either way, we have, King Philip and Landry basically going out into the town. They go to a tavern. And this is mainly due to the fact that Philip is distraught about what his wife did about calling him out, but also the fact that she left, disobeyed his orders, and basically went to Navarre. So he's speaking with Landry. He gets in a bar fight. He does a really good job, but he eventually gets knocked the freak out, and Landry has to protect him. So they have this discussion about how, the king. Well, King Philip says that he's tired of the betrayals and the lies. He feels though like he has so much weight on his shoulders, and he feels though he's not a bad person, and he just wonders why people keep on betraying him, and how it seems to him the only one who's loyal to him and sees him for what he is as a person is Landry, which is ironic considering Landry did probably one of the most unforgivable things you can do to a friend, and that's sleep with his woman / his wife / lover, blah, 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 blah. So, after this, Landry goes to the Knights Templars, temple, and speaks with Gawain. Keep in mind, Landry's quite drunk, and he talks about how he fathered a child with a married woman, I believe. Now, I'm trying... Wait, yeah. He fathered a child with a married woman. So, as we know, Gawain has swallowed a lot of Landry's temper tantrums and a lot of Landry's crap. So, we have this really incredible scene before Gawain goes to the temple, in which he speaks with Denogre. As we see in the previous episode, Denogre seemed to have left with his uncle, after barely surviving the hanging due to his uncle's interference, cutting the noose and escaping. But it seems though Denogre is basically within the town dressed as a peasant. So he starts to mess with Gawain's mind, saying, okay, if Landry finds the grail, do you really think Landry will give you the grail? Landry's all about Landry. Every time you try to give Landry counsel, Randy tries to give Landry counsel, he only goes by what he feels is right. He doesn't listen to y'all. If he does, it's a rare occurrence. And a lot of what Denogre said to Gawain makes sense, because Landry is a little bit hot-headed, and he is a little bit temperamental, especially over the last couple episodes. But a lot of that could be, said due to the amount of pressure it is, not just being the new master of the Templars, but the whole Search of the Grail, the Brotherhood of Light, their former master of the Templars turned out to be a member of the Brotherhood of the Light, being responsible for the fall of Acre and the loss of the Holy Grail to begin with. So all this, is understandable why Landry has been even more hot-tempered, than usual. So following that, we have Gawain speaking to, Jesus, figuratively, like the Jesus idol, like on the cross, and he was saying how every day when he gets up, he's in pain. When he goes on a horse, he's in pain. When he takes out his sword, he's in pain. When he's walking, he's in pain. And despite the sins he committed, he feels like he's a good person and that he has atoned for these sins. But Landry is even more of a sinner than he is. By him having a child, with another man's wife, committed adultery and numerous other things he goes in a rant about. And he talks about how, but he seems as though he's not suffering like I suffer. And he starts to come to believe Denogre's words about how Landry, if he is successful finding the Grail, probably won't even give it to him to heal Gawain's pain, his suffering. So he tells God that, Jesus, whatever, that you probably want me to play the part of Judas, because I have to do what I don't want to do, but I'm going to have to take that Grail from Landry, because it's my destiny, just like it was for Judas. So, also this episode, Landry and Gawain go to, I believe, the orphanage or the place or something. I believe the place or the house in which Landry was born or something along the lines. And the place, or the orphanage, I believe, the orphanage where Landry lived, and it was burned down. So, and that they thought they were going to find the Grail there, because I said in the previous review, that's where the leader, Rashid, told Landry, the leader of the Brotherhood of Light, Rashid, told Landry that where the Grail would be. But the place is burnt down. But we did see this mysterious old woman, like, around, like, watching Landry and Gawain. So when Landry comes back, he sees this old woman again, and she basically tells Landry she knows where the Grail is. So he takes to the headquarters. She's eating kind of like a pig, honestly. She clearly has no manners. So she tells Landry to basically tell the other Templar Knights to go away. And she tells Landry that him and her are the only ones that should go get the Grail because, you can't trust anybody here. You mean? You can't trust no one. And it's kind of funny because I believe this episode she kind of looked towards Gawain in a way, which I found very interesting. I'm like, yo, this woman has very good intuition. So I believe Landry kind of doesn't really take her serious, and he brings Gawain along with him anyways. So when they get to this place where supposedly this Grail's at, the Holy Grail's at, she makes it clear to Gawain, listen, I would advise for you not to fight Landry. And she looks him up and down and smiles and says, he'll kill you because you're not as good as you used to be. So don't do anything stupid. But he does anyways. He basically tries to attack Landry, and Landry ducks and kind of shoves him. And he kind of jokes, saying, I was expecting you to actually try to do this, like at least on the way back to the Knights Templar Temple, not literally right when we get our hands upon the Grail. So we basically have Gawain basically saying the same thing he said to, the Jesus side on the cross and all that stuff. We were saying, like, basically, you're selfish. Everything's always about you, the great Landry. All you think about yourself. If once we got the Grail, you wouldn't give me, you wouldn't give me the Grail to help ease my pain or destroy my pain so I could be back to normal the way I used to be. So they have this fight, and it's a really quick beatdown, with the exception of the sword fighting. Because from what we know, Gawain was the Templar's best swordsman, but that quickly got dismatched. Well, that quickly became a non-factor once Landry was able to knock the sword out of Gawain's hand and really start to pummel him to the point that Gawain was at Landry's mercy, and Landry chooses not to kill him. He decks him and knocks him unconscious. So after this, I believe we have this really incredible scene in which Denogare really starts to put two and two together. When Gawain says that the whole part about Landry getting a married woman pregnant, and then he thinks about it, he's like, okay, wait, isn't Queen Joan pregnant? And he's thinking about the time correlations and about how Gawain mentions how she's very soon to be giving birth, etc., etc. And, so he does all this in his head. He realizes that Landry is actually the father of Queen Jones's, child. So he has that little evil smirk on his face because he's like, okay, now I have collateral now. I could use this to basically get back in King Philip's favor. Screw what happens to Landry or Queen Joan. I never liked Joan to begin with. Or maybe I could tolerate Joan, but whatever happens to her happens to her. And Landry, I hate him. He's a Templar. Screw him. So that's about it, you guys. So if I missed anything, write some comments down below. Thank you guys for watching. Adios.